In this video, we're going to be picking up where we left off in The Fall of Five by Pittacus Lore. I hope you guys are still enjoying the series, and that's kind of it. We'll just go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so The Fall of Five by Pittacus Lore, Chapter 18. I can't sleep that night. Stretched out on the choicest couch in Nine's showroom of a living room, I should have slept like a baby. It was a huge upgrade over the stiff, flea-bitten motel beds my dad and I had been enduring, not to mention the wonderful accommodations of Sithrekis Ra. There's just too much to think about. Finally reunited with the guard and my father, ready to really begin the fight against the Mogadorians, I feel uneasy. Uneasy about the future. Uneasy about fitting in with the Lorik. I wonder how my dad is sleeping. He seemed exhausted after dinner. I know answering the guard's questions with his fractured memory put a major strain on him. Maybe I was just feeling awkward after meeting so many new guard. I'd had time to forge friendships with John and Six, time to get used to the whole alien thing. Being around the rest of them sort of threw me off balance. I can handle Nine's bluster. Marina and Ella seemed normal enough, but then there was 8, with that story about basically tricking humans into fighting for him, and 5, well, I don't think anyone really understood what his deal was yet. Sometimes it seemed like the most socially inept person in the world. Sometimes he seemed like the most socially inept person in the world, and other times like he was slyly mocking everyone. What was my role going to be here? John's buddy from high school and plucky sidekick? I want to contribute more than that. I'm just not sure how I can. I must have slept at least a bit, tossing and turning on the couch. The ornate hands of the ridiculously expensive-looking antique grandfather clock in the corner show that it's early. I might as well get out of bed and do something. My hands are fidgeting. Maybe I can go down to the lecture hall, get a head start on some of the work my dad wanted to finish. I can't exactly rebuild a mainframe or anything, but I'm pretty sure I could connect some of the severed wires on my own. The penthouse is eerily quiet as I pad through it. The floorboards creak in the hallway, and almost immediately Five's door whips open, startling me. He's still fully dressed, which is odd, like he's just been crouching by his door and waiting to leap out at the first sign of trouble. One of his hands moves nervously, a pair of marble-sized balls turning over in his palm. "Hey," I whisper. "It's just me. Sorry if I woke you." "What are you doing up?" he whispers back suspiciously. "I could ask you the same question," I reply. He sighs and seems to back down a bit, like he doesn't want a confrontation. "Yeah, sorry, I can't sleep. This place weirds me out. It's too big." Five pauses, scrunching up his face like he's embarrassed. Ever since Arkansas, I keep thinking one of those monsters is just going to show up and get me. "Yeah, I know the feeling. It's okay. I think we're safe here." I motion down the hallway. "I'm going to go work in the lecture hall. You want to come?" Five shakes his head. "No, thanks." He starts to close his door, then stops. "You know, I don't really think you and your dad are Mogadorian spies or whatever. At dinner I was just playing a devil's advocate, I guess." "Yeah, thanks." "I mean, if I was a Mogadorian recruiting spies, I'd pick humans that seemed a little tougher, you know?" "Uh-huh," I reply, crossing my arms. "You really don't know when to stop talking during an apology, do you?" "Ugh, I'm sorry. That came out wrong." Five replies, knuckling his forehead. "I've got really crappy social awareness. Do you think anyone else has noticed?" Five smiles. "I'm joking, Sam. Of course they've noticed. I know I'm a freaking jerk. Like you said, I just can't shut up sometimes." "If they've gotten used to Nine, they can get used to you," I offer. "Yeah, that's, heartening, I guess." Five sighs. "Good night, Sam. Don't hatch any evil plans in the lecture hall." Five shuts his door. I stand in the hallway, listening to him rustling around in his room. He's a little off-putting, sure, but I can definitely understand why he'd be feeling anxious around the other guard. I feel the same way. I'm surprised to find the lights in the lecture hall already on. Sarah's there, standing in the firing range portion. She's wearing a tank top and sweatpants. She's also holding a crossbow, which might be one of the strangest things I've ever seen. I watch her get ready to fire off an arrow. "Can I take your picture for the yearbook?" I ask. My voice echoes in the vast space. Sarah jumps. The arrow she was about to fire goes whizzing wide of the paper mog hanging at the opposite end of the room. She turns around with a grin, brandishing this crossbow and gritting her teeth menacingly. I snap a picture with an imaginary camera. "The kids in Paradise won't believe that one," I say, "but you're a shoo-in for the most likely to MAME award." Sarah laughs. "God, we're a long way from yearbook meetings, aren't we?" "Yeah, no kidding." Sarah sets the crossbow down and surprises me with a hug. "What was that for?" "It looked like you could use one," she replies, shrugging. "Also, don't tell the others I said this, but it's so nice to have another human around." I realize that Sarah is pretty much the only other teenager on Earth who knows what it's like to be friends with a bunch of aliens fighting an intergalactic war. We've never really talked about it, but we've shared a ton of the same whacked out experiences. We should have like a two-person support group, I suggest. You know, if you'd asked me last year, I'd say the scariest thing I've ever seen was an AP chemistry final. Sarah laughs. And now, just yesterday, I watched my boyfriend fight a giant worm monster. I laugh. Life sure got crazy in a hurry. No wonder we're turning into insomniacs. I wander over to the lectern and start looking at some wires that my dad was working on before. Sarah sits down cross-legged next to me and watches. "So, you came down here to shoot a crossbow when you can't sleep?" "It's as good as a warm glass of milk," she replies. "Actually, I've been working on learning to shoot, but I didn't want to wake everyone up firing off guns." "Yeah, probably not a good idea. Everyone's a bit on edge, huh?" That's an understatement. I glance over at Sarah. It's so hard to believe this is the same girl I went to high school with. What really throws me is that we're having a conversation about artillery training. "Been coming in here a lot, actually," she continues. "John doesn't sleep much. When he does, it's all tossing and turning, and then he slips out of bed in the morning to go brood off on the roof. He thinks I don't notice, but I do." I smirk at Sarah, arching an eyebrow. "Sharing a bed, huh?" She kicks at me playfully. "Whatever, Sam. There are only so many bedrooms. It's not what you think, though. There's something really not romantic about hiding from murderous alien invaders, you know? Not to mention, I don't like the idea of 8 just teleporting in or something." She squints at me. "Even so, don't tell my parents." "Your secret's safe with me," I tell her. "Us humans have to stick together." I finish reconnecting the wires, and something hums to life inside the lectern. One of the panels along the wall suddenly juts out like a piston, then retracts. "What's that for?" Sarah asks. Why do I keep yawning? "It's like combat simulation stuff, I guess. Nine told me his C-PAN had all kind of obstacles and traps set up in here." Sarah knocks on the floor in front of her. Something metallic rattles beneath her hand and she jerks back. Maybe I should watch where I'm sitting. I stop messing with the wires, wanting to wait for my dad before I go any further and also not wanting to accidentally trigger some kind of spike trap under Sarah. Sarah gently touches my arm. "So why aren't you sleeping, Sam?" Without realizing it, I find that I'm rubbing the scars on my wrists. "I had a lot of time to think when I was a prisoner," I tell her. "I know what you mean." "Well, there's another thing Sarah and I have in common. I spent a lot of time thinking about John and the others, about how I could help them." "And?" I open up my hand, showing Sarah what I came up with. A whole lot of nothing. "Oh," she says. "Well, there's always the crossbow." I'm worried I won't be able to help. Like, sooner or later I'll end up captured again, or worse, and that'll just screw things up for the others. Then I hear a story like 8 told tonight, and I wonder if maybe it wouldn't have been better if John had left me in paradise like 8 left those soldiers. Like, maybe he'd be better off without having to worry about me. "Or me," Sarah says, frowning. "I didn't mean that," I say hurriedly. "It's okay," Sarah says, touching my arm. "It's okay because you're wrong, Sam. John and the others do need us, and there are things we can do." I nod, wanting to believe her, but then I look down at the scars on my wrists and remember what Citrek Esra had told me in West Virginia. I fall silent. Sarah hops to her feet, holding out her hand out. "For starters," she says, "we could go make some breakfast. They probably won't make us honorary Lorians for it, but it's a start." I force a smile and climb to my feet. Sarah doesn't let go of my hand. She's looking at the dark purple scars on my wrists. "Whatever happened to you, Sam?" she says, holding my gaze. "It's over now. You're safe." Before I can respond, a piercing shriek erupts from one of the bedrooms. Chapter 19. I jolt awake as soon as Ella starts screaming. It was my night to stay with her, and it had gone by peacefully. We'd stayed up late talking about the new arrivals and what Malcolm Good had told us about Pittacus lore and the possibility of helpful Mogadorians. Ella had finally fallen asleep, and I'd hoped that maybe the nightmares plaguing her since New Mexico were finally gone for good. She hadn't had one since reading Creighton's letter. Maybe it was all stress-related after all. Now that she'd gotten over the anxiety of that unopened letter, things could get back to normal. I should have known better. Ella! Ella, wake up!" I shout, trying to decide if I should shake her. I'm feeling a little panicked, especially when she doesn't immediately snap awake. Ella digs at the blankets with her fingers, kicking her heels into the mattress, all while belting out steadily hoarser screams. She's moving about so much that she almost falls out of the bed. I reach out to steady her. As soon as I touch Ella's shoulder, an image pops into my mind. I'm not sure where it comes from. It feels like when Ella talks to me telepathically, except they've never been visuals to go along with her mental voice. What I see is horrible. It's Chicago, the same lakefront area where 8 and I wandered around just the other day. There are bodies strewn everywhere. Human bodies. The sky is filled with columns of smoke from nearby fires. The surface of the lake is covered in something vicious and black like oil. I can hear screams, smell the burning, hear explosions in the distance. I pull away from Ella with a gasp. Just like that, the vision is gone. I'm out of breath, shaking, my stomach feeling queasy. Ella has stopped screaming. She's awake now, looking up at me with wide, scared eyes. I glance over at the clock and realize less than a minute has passed since Ella first started screaming. "You saw it too?" she whispers. I nod, not sure how to answer, much less describe what I just saw. How is it possible that I just found myself in Ella's dream? Someone knocks on the door, and without waiting for an answer, Sarah pokes her head in. I can see Sam standing behind her in the hallway. They both look concerned. Is everything all... Before Sarah can finish, Ella makes a sudden motion towards the door, slamming it shut with her telekinesis. "Ella! Why'd you do that?" "They shouldn't be near me," she replies, her eyes wide and frantic. Someone tugs at the door, but it won't budge. Now I hear John's voice, probably drawn by all the screaming and commotion. "Marina, everything all right in there?" "We're okay," I yell through the door. "Just give us a minute." Ella pulls a blanket around herself and curls up at the head of the bed, pressing her back to the wall. Her eyes are still wide, and she's shaking like a leaf. When I try to touch her, she flinches away from me. "Don't," she snaps. "What if I send you back there again?" "Calm down, Ella," I say soothingly. "It's over now. The dreams can't hurt you, especially when you're awake." She lets me hold her hand. There's no telepathic jolt this time, which I'm thankful for. Whatever strange effect the nightmare had on Ella's telepathy is over now. How much did you see?" she asks, her eyes darting around the room, like there could still be some leftover nightmare lurking in the shadows to get her. "I don't even know what I saw exactly," I answer. "It was the city. It looked like something terrible happened." Ella nods. "It's after they come." "Who?" I ask, but I already have a good idea who Ella means. "The Mogadorians. He's showing me what happens after they come. He made me hold his hand and walk through it all." Ella shudders and lunges away from the wall into my arms. I feel like shuddering too. The thought of having to walk through that carnage hand in hand with Setrekis Ra is enough to get me rattled. I try to put on a strong face for Ella. "Shh," I whisper. "It's okay now. It's over." "It's going to happen," Ella cries. "We can't stop him." "That's not true," I reply, squeezing her tight. I try to think of what John or Six might say in this situation. "The nightmares are lies, Ella." "How do you know?" "Remember those cave paintings 8 showed us in India? The one of 8 dying? That was supposed to be a prophecy, but we broke it. There's no set future, only the one we make." Ella lets go of me and takes a deep breath, pulling herself together. "I just want the nightmares to stop," Ella says. "I don't know why it's happening to me." "It's Setrekis Ra trying to scare you," I tell her. "He's trying to scare you because he's scared of us." I'm glad I was able to calm her down, to sound confident doing so, because I'm actually pretty freaked out. Sunlight is starting to peek through the curtains, and outside the window is a beautiful city full of innocent people that I just saw ravaged. That dream seemed so real, I just can't shake it off. What if we aren't able to stop what's coming? Chapter 20. Later that morning, I gather everyone in the living room for what I hope will be a strategy session. Some important things got brought up at dinner last night, and it's time we planned our next move. However, the first order of business for our tired group, many of whom were woken up by screaming a few hours ago, is this issue of Ella's nightmares. Malcolm strokes his beard thoughtfully. "Let's assume that these nightmares are being caused by Setrekis Ra. I find it extremely troubling that he's able to transmit them somehow, presumably through some form of Mogadorian telepathy, without knowing our exact location. In fact, you said you saw Chicago burning, correct?" Ella nods, not looking eager to revisit her latest nightmare. Bernie Kosar, curled up at her feet, nuzzles against her. "It was Chicago after a major battle," Marina clarifies. Is he taunting us? 6 asks. Or is it like some kind of prophecy? I thought we were done with prophecies, 8 says, rolling his eyes. Sometimes there's a little bit of truth in the nightmares, I say. Like when we had that vision about New Mexico, 9 chimes in. Yeah, but other times it's like he's just trying to screw with us. The content doesn't worry me so much as the fact that Sotrekis Ra is able to transmit them at all, says Malcolm, deep lines forming in his face as he thinks this through. Do you think it's possible he's tracking us through the dreams? If he could do that, wouldn't we already be fighting off Moggs? 8 replies. Why even bother drawing John and 9 off to New Mexico? I nod in agreement, thinking back to the visions 9 and I shared. Even though the nightmares can be creepily specific, I don't think he knows where we are. It's more like he's trying to make us slip up. The question, then, is how do we stop the nightmares? Malcolm asks. I've got a solution, 6 says, and everyone looks in her direction. She takes a considering sip from a mug of coffee. Let's go kill Sotrekis Ra. 9 claps his hands and points at 6. I like the way this chick thinks. Oh, is it that easy? 5 asks, speaking up for the first time. You make it sound like taking out the trash. I wish it were so simple, I say, but we don't know where he is, and even if we could find him, that's not going to be an easy fight. The last time we went up against him, he almost killed us. We could get him to come to us, 9 suggests, glancing over at 5. Maybe fire up some more crop circles. You can't be serious, Sam says. I noticed him shifting in his seat at the mention of Sotrekis Ra. He's not serious, 5 says, glaring in 9's direction. He's mocking me. 9 shrugs and feigns a yawn. Whatever. I really do think we should go fight something. That's all you ever want to do, 8 cuts in. Yeah, it's my thing. For the first time ever, we're together, I say, keeping my voice measured. We have the element of surprise on our side. We've got an opportunity to prepare and pick our next battle. Let's not rush into anything. John's right, Marina says. There's still so much we don't know about ourselves, our powers, our chests. It'd be good to know exactly what we're working with. We did some training with 9 in the lectern hall the other day. It was helpful, surprisingly so. 9 grins. Compliment taken. Insult ignored. Yeah, Sarah chimes in. I think I speak for all of us humans when I say a little more combat training wouldn't hurt. Learning what our chests contain would help too, I offer. Maybe we could figure out which items are those phoenix stones that Malcolm was talking about. An inventory seems to be in order, Malcolm says. Which means we need to make finding your chest a top priority, I say, looking over at 5. Absolutely, 5 replies, seeming about as certain as I've ever seen him. I know exactly where to go. We can do that whenever you want. That might make a good first mission, 8 says, especially if we could get it done under the Mog radar. I still think we should just blow up their freaking radar, 9 grumbles. Soon, buddy. For now, we need to play it safe. Gather our strength. Malcolm, what about the Mogadorian guy, Adam? Malcolm shakes his head, his features sagging. I've hooked up a tracker, so we'll be alerted if his cell phone turns on, but nothing yet. I fear the worst. Maybe he just ditched his phone, suggests Sam, trying to cheer up his forlorn-looking dad. We got a bit off topic here, didn't we? 6 puts in. What about Ella's nightmares? It's Ella, who has been listening quietly, that responds. I'll tough them out. The next time that big freak gets into my head, I'm going to punch him in the balls. Whoa! All right, I say, grinning. Meeting adjourned. Go, Ella. Chapter 21. Later, the 4 of us that still have our chests gather in the workshop with Malcolm. I'm happy to help out. I'm just not sure how much use I'll be. Adelina wasn't around enough to explain what any of the stuff in my chest does. From the lectern hall comes the muffled sound of 6 training marksmanship with Sam, Sarah, and Ella. I think 5 is in there too, although he didn't look too thrilled about the prospect of learning to shoot. 9 stares longingly at the door to the lecture hall. Sighing dramatically, he starts rummaging through his chest. Check this out, 9 says. He holds up a small purple stone and then places it on the back of his hand. The stone slides into his hand, through it. 9 turns his hand over just as the stone pops out into his palm. Pretty cool, right? He asks me, waggling his eyebrows. But what is it supposed to do? 8 asks. looking up from his own chest. I don't know. Impress girls? 9 looks over at me. Did it work? I hesitate, trying not to roll my eyes too hard. Not really. But I've seen guys teleport, so I'm kind of hard to impress. Tough crowd. What does it feel like when it passes through your hand? Malcolm asks. He holds a pen poised over a clipboard. Kind of weird, I guess. My hand goes numb until the stone passes through. 9 shrugs, glancing around. You guys want to try? Yes, actually, Malcolm says. When he puts the stone on his hand, nothing happens. I guess it's Lorik only. Malcolm hands the stone back to 9. Instead of putting it back into his chest, 9 shoves the purple stone into his pocket. Maybe he's going to go out and try to impress some ladies later. John holds up a collection of brittle-looking leaves, the bundle held together by some yellowed twine. He cradles them gently in his hands, unsure what to make of them. This has something to do with Lorien, right? Maybe it's a reminder from Henry that you're supposed to rake the lawn, 9 says, digging through his own chest again. I don't have any dumb leaves in here. Malcolm peers at the bundle in John's hands. Gently, he runs his index finger along the edge of the leaf. I almost expect the delicate little thing to crumble. Suddenly, the sound of a gentle breeze fills the room. It stops as soon as Malcolm pulls back his finger. You all heard that? He asks. Sounded like someone left a window open, 8 says, looking around at the 4 walls cluttered with equipment. Not a shred of daylight comes through anywhere. It was the sound of wind on Lorien, John says, his eyes getting distant. Somehow, I know that's what it was. Do it again, 9 says, and I'm a little surprised by the sincerity in his voice. But then, I really want to hear the wind again, too. There was something comforting about it. John brushes his hands through the leaves, and this time the sound is fuller. My skin prickles. It's almost as if I can feel the fresh Lorik air on my skin. It's beautiful. Amazing, 8 says. But what is it for? 9 asks, returning to his usual bluntness. It's a reminder, John replies, his voice low, like he's a little choked up at trying to hide it. A reminder of what we've left behind, what we're fighting for. Interesting. Malcolm makes a note on his clipboard. Further study will be required. One by one, Malcolm stands over our shoulders as we empty out our chests. He writes down everything, making notes for the objects we know how to work and underlining the ones that we don't. From the dark gloves that shimmer when I touch them to the circular device that looks sort of like a compass. Pretty much every item in my inheritance gets underlined. What do you think this does? 8 asks, holding up a curved antler that looks like it was snapped off the head of a small deer. It's the only thing in here I don't know how to work. 5 seconds after 8 held up the antler, Bernie Kosar bolts through the workshop door with his snout in the air. He looks thrilled, his tail wagging. He jumps right on 8, pawing at him. He wants the antler, says John, in case you couldn't tell. Shrugging, 8 lowers the antler and BK takes it in his jaws. He flops over onto his back and begins to roll back and forth. He emits a happy purring sound that definitely doesn't go with his dog form. In fact, his form begins to flicker in and out, almost as if he's having trouble controlling himself. He's so weird, 9 is laughing hysterically. If we weren't on the run, I would totally put this on the internet. Whoa, John says, rubbing his temples. Calm down, BK. Malcolm looks from BK to John. You can communicate with him? Yeah, John answers, telepathically. So can 9. He's pretty wound up. He says the antler is, I don't know how to put it. It's coming through in a weird language, like a totem or something, for Chimera. Well, he's our only Chimera, so he can keep it, says 8, grinning as he crouches down to rub BK's belly. Ella came here on a ship filled with Chimera, I say. Do you think we could use that to attract them? Maybe they're lost and need to know where to find us. Malcolm immediately starts writing on his clipboard. Very good thought, Marina. I smile, feeling a little swell of pride. Now if I could only figure out what the stuff in my chest does. If you're looking for boring nature-themed crap, I've got this, 9 says, holding up a small leather pouch. He passes it around and we each look inside. It's filled with rich chocolate brown soil. When Sander was explaining my inheritance, he told me it was meant for growing things, but that we wouldn't need it for a long while. 9 reties the leather strings at the top of the pouch and dismissively tosses it back in his chest. I guess he's not all that interested in things that can't kill Mogadorians. I look through my chest, brushing aside the assortment of gems that could have funded my Spanish version of Nine's penthouse if Adelina had cared, looking for anything that might have to do with restarting Lorien. "What about this?" I ask, holding up a slim vial of crystal clear water. The glass is cool to the touch beneath my fingers. "Drink it," suggests Nine. Malcolm shakes his head. "I'd advise against ingesting any of the items in your chest until we know what they do." "You listening?" Eight elbows Nine. "Don't eat any of the rocks." I uncork the vial. As soon as the air touches it, the liquid transforms to a shade of blue, exactly the same as the Lorelite stones. It's only a brief reaction, though, the blue quickly fading back to the clear water. I drag my finger down the side of the vial, and a trail of bright blue appears in the liquid, then fades as I lift my finger away. I notice little tendrils of blue swirling about beneath the tips of my fingers where I'm holding the vial. "Do you see that?" I exclaim. "It's like the liquid can feel your touch through the glass," says John. "May I?" asks Malcolm. I hand it over to Malcolm. When he holds the vial, the color of the liquid doesn't change. He says, and holds the vial out to John. "You try." As soon as John takes the vial from Malcolm, the liquid again flashes the brilliant cobalt shade of Lorelite. We all watch as it slowly fades away, except where John is touching it. The way the liquid pulses, it's like it wants out of the vial, like it's eager to be in contact with us. "So, it detects Lorik," 8 says. "But what good is that if we're the only ones left?" "I'm going to try something," I say, taking the vial back from John. Carefully, I tip the vial so that just a single drop spills into the palm of my hand. The liquid turns blue and a tickling sensation spreads across my palm. Then the single droplet quivers and expands, gaining mass and density until I'm holding in my hand a smooth nugget of Lorelite. "Whoa," 8 says, taking the stone out of my hand and turning it over, examining it. "Whoa, indeed." Malcolm bends down, gazing in amazement at the stone. "Whatever that material is, it defies the laws of physics." "So we can create Lorelite with that," John muses. "Nine and I both have something that looks like it could be used for farming or planting, and 8 has an object that can summon Chimera. Doesn't it seem like that's the stuff that can help us jumpstart Lorien?" "It does indeed," says Malcolm. I put the stopper back into the vial, not wanting to waste any more of our precious liquid Lorelite. The inventorying goes on for a little while longer, with Malcolm taking really meticulous notes. We're all eager to learn as much as we can about our inheritances. Well, except for Nine. He keeps gazing towards the door of the lecture hall. He makes us promise to train with him after we're done with all the brainy stuff. In truth, I'm looking forward to another session in there myself. I feel like I've got a lot of catching up to do before I'm at the same level of combat readiness as the others. When the others leave, 8 and I linger, putting the last few items back into our chests. I put the Lorelite stone that I created in there as well, but 8 plucks it out. He squeezes it tightly in his fist and concentrates. "What are you doing?" He opens his eyes and sighs. "I wanted to see if I could use this to teleport to one of the other Lorelite stones. I've tried using my pendant before, and that didn't work either. They must not be big enough chunks." "What? You wanted to make a quick jaunt to Stonehenge, maybe Somalia?" I take back the stone and put it in my chest, locking it up. "Things are going to be moving fast now, that's all. I just wish we had more time to do some of that exploring." "We?" I reply, feeling a sudden heat rising in my face. "You were going to teleport me away with you?" 8 flashes me that disarming smile. "Just for a quick breather. You telling me you couldn't use one?" 8's right, obviously. After getting woken up before dawn by Ella screaming and witnessing that horrific vision of Chicago, I could definitely use a time out from Lorik business. But there's no time for that now. I touch 8 on the arm. "Sorry," I tell him. "We've got to be serious. Like 9 said, no time for gallivanting off to foreign lands or even the waterfront." 8 sighs with good-natured disappointment. "Ah, well," he says, "we'll always have pizza." He pauses for a moment, looking like he wants to say something more, but then 9 bursts into the room. He's already changed into workout clothes. "You suckers ready to work?" Chapter 22. Let's grab 5, 9 says gruffly after 8 and I have gotten changed. "That dude could use a workout." We find 5 stretched out on one of the couches in 9's living room. He's fired up some video game from 9's collection on the big screen television. I don't have any experience with the things, and watching 5 play makes me sort of dizzy. The game is in first-person perspective. 5's character running around a battlefield with a machine gun, mowing down soldiers. 5 doesn't even acknowledge us entering the room until 8 loudly clears his throat. "Oh, hey guys," 5 says, not bothering to pause the game. This thing is freaking amazing. We never had anything like this on the islands. Watch this. On screen, Five's character launches a grenade. A group of enemy soldiers hiding behind a pile of sandbags explodes in a shower of dismembered limbs. I look away. After seeing into Ella's dream this morning, the video game just seems a little too realistic. Cool, 8 says politely. 9 yawns. He stands right in front of the television so that 5 is finally forced to pause the game. I used to be really into these when I was a kid, 9 says. Now I'm more into the real thing. You want to join us? 5 raises an eyebrow. The real thing? We're going to go kill some soldiers and, He squints at the open case for the video game, World War II. I guess my Earth history must be spotty because I thought that was all over. We're going to train, 9 replies, unamused. From what I heard about Arkansas, it sounds like your game could use some work. I notice a flash of anger in 5's eyes, and for a moment I think he might leap off the couch, but then he settles back, crossing his arms and making a concentrated effort to keep his features neutral. I'm not really feeling it right now, 5 says. He makes a show of stretching out further on the couch. Anyway, this game is good for my hand-eye coordination, probably the best training I'll get around here. I'm realizing now that this might have been a bad idea. 9's about the least diplomatic person I've ever met. After spending some time around him, I've learned not to take him too seriously. I can tell 5 hasn't quite worked up that same tolerance yet. It's really surprisingly fun, I say, trying to smooth things over. If 5 doesn't feel like we're pushing him, maybe he'd be more likely to train with us. It gives us a chance to work together as a team. Also, we'd really like the chance to get to know you better. For a moment, 5's look softens. It's like I figured. If you're nice to him, he lets his guard down. Nobody likes to be told what to do, especially when they've been alone for as long as 5 has. I can tell he's going to cave in and come train with us. Unfortunately, 9's not so good at picking up signals, or maybe he's just impatient. He casually walks behind 5's couch and, with one hand, flips it over. 5 is unceremoniously dumped onto the floor. 8 shakes his head, although there's a small smile playing at the corner of his lips. I know 5 didn't make the best first impression on him, dredging up all those memories of what 8 did in India. Still, this is no way to treat our newest guard. Come on, 9, I say, using that disappointed but not angry tone I used to get from the nuns. You're being a bully. 9 ignores me. 5 has already jumped back to his feet, glaring at 9. What'd you do that for? My couch, says 9. I can do whatever I want with it. 5 makes a disgusted snort. That is so childish. You're ridiculous. Maybe, 9 replies, shrugging blithely. You can show me how ridiculous I am in training. So this is all one of 9's little motivational tools, trying to get 5 mad at him so that he'll come fight in the lecture hall. Such a boy's plan. We could have just asked 5 nicely. 5 keeps right on staring at 9, sizing him up. He smirks, a glint of something mischievous in his eyes, and I get the impression that 5 has seen right through 9's ploy. Tell you what, says 5. I'll give you a free shot right here. If you can hurt me, I'll come train with you. If you can't hurt me, you take the overcompensating macho stuff out of my face for the rest of the day. 9's face lights up in a wolfish grin. You want me to hit you, little guy? Sure, 5 replies, his hands in his pockets, chin jutting out. Give it a shot. This is dumb, you guys, I say, trying to defuse what has suddenly become a really absurd situation. Both 5 and 9 are so involved in this pissing contest when we should be learning to work together. I glance over at 8 for some support. A small smile tugs at the corners of his lips, almost like he's amused by this whole thing. When he catches my look of disapproval, 8's smile turns sheepish and he places a hand on 9's shoulder. Let's just go train, 8 says, keeping his voice light. 5 can come by when he's ready. 9 shrugs off 8's hand and cocks his fist back. He raises his eyebrows at 5. You sure you want to test me, Frodo? I hope your punches are better than your insults. 5 snaps back. I have to admit, I sort of admire his spirit. Of course, this all could have been avoided if he'd just swallowed his pride to begin with. The way both 5 and 9 are acting is pathetic. 2 of the last remaining Lork in the universe need to be given a timeout. Like me, 8 has resigned himself to letting this play out. We both take a step back. 9 really takes his time, drawing it out. He cracks his knuckles, rolls his neck, makes sure his shoulders are square. I think I'm more nervous than 5 is. He just stands there passively, waiting for 9 to throw his punch. Finally, 9 takes a swing. It's a big overhand blow, and even though it's definitely enough to knock someone out, I think I've seen 9 throw punches harder and faster. I guess he took a little off the punch, not wanting to hurt 5 that bad. In mid-swing, 5's skin transforms into glistening steel. Nine's fist crunches against Five's metallic jaw, and he cries out immediately. It's like hitting a metal grinder. I put a hand over my mouth to stifle a cry of surprise. Next to me, 8 has to cut off a surprised laugh when he realizes that Nine's hand is definitely broken. He spins away from 5, clutching his hand against his chest. 5's skin returns to normal. Is that it? 9 growls a series of curses. I rush over to take a look at his hand, but he pushes me away and stalks out of the room, heading towards the lecture hall. I'm sure he'll want me to heal that hand as soon as he cools down. Anyway, after acting like a jerk, he deserves a little pain. If he really listened to 4 talking about our battle in Arkansas, he would have seen that coming. 5 says as he watches 9 storm off, his voice wooden, almost bored. He's not exactly the master tactician, 8 replies coolly. Well, welcome to the team. Enjoy your video games, I guess. 8 follows 9 out of the room. 5 watches him go, looking a little baffled that 8 would just brush him off. I help him return the couch that 9 flipped over to its normal position. I'm not sure what I did wrong here, 5 says quietly. How am I the bad guy? You're not, I reply. Things just got out of hand. You were both being pretty stupid. He's been picking on me since I walked in the door, 5 continues. I figured if I didn't stand up to him, it would just keep happening. I sit on the couch next to 5. I understand, I tell him. 9 has a way of getting under people's skin. John told me a story about how him and 9 almost tore each other apart once. You'll get used to it. That's the thing. I don't want to get used to it. 5 picks up the video game controller, but he doesn't start playing again. He clicks a few buttons and the screen goes dark. And the thing is, I wanted to train with you guys. I don't want to be left out. I want to see what you guys can do and learn to work together. It was just the way he asked. I couldn't stop myself from reacting. I pat 5 gently on the shoulder. You know, you and 9 aren't all that different. He seems to consider this, gazing down at the carpet. No, I guess we aren't. Should I apologize for hurting his hand? I shake my head, chuckling a little. It's probably his pride that's hurting more, but you shouldn't apologize for that either. I stand up to grab 5's arm, tugging him to his feet. Come on, let's go to training. Let's go get to training. 5 hesitates. After that, you really think I'd be welcome? You're one of us, aren't you? I say decisively. What better time to learn teamwork than after punching a teammate in the face? 5 almost allows himself a laugh. He nods and we walk towards the lecture hall together. Thanks, Marina, he says. You know, you're the first person to really make me feel welcome here. Well, at least there's that. I might not be able to help Ella with her dreams, or identify half the objects in my inheritance, or fight as well as the others. But at least I'm good at coaxing jerks into being more personable. I wonder if that's a legacy. Okay, that's it for now. We'll pick back up on chapter 23 in the next video. I hope you guys are enjoying it. We are a little more than halfway through the book. Don't know if you can tell. So we are getting there. And I know it's a little bit slow right now, but that's just because things are getting ready to build up, and there's going to be a huge craziness coming up. So, yep, just be patient and we'll get there. That's it for now. Reading by Ree until next time.